part of this topic, let's go through how to trim unwanted characters using Spark functions. We typically use trimming to remove unnecessary characters from fixed length records. In some cases, we might even use other scenarios than fixed length records, but trimming is quite often used with fixed length records. Fixed length records are extensively used in mainframes, and we might have to process it using Spark. As part of processing, we might want to remove leading or trailing characters such as 0 in case of numeric types and space or some standard character in case of alphanumeric types. As of now, Spark trim functions take the column as argument and remove leading or trailing spaces. In this case, when I say Spark trim functions, I'm talking about data frame functions. However, we can use expr or select expr to use Spark SQL based trim functions to remove leading or trailing spaces or any other such characters. Spark SQL based trim functions are a lot more powerful than data frame related trim functions. If you just want to trim spaces towards left, you can use Ltrim. If you want to trim spaces towards right, you can use Rtrim. You can use trim to remove spaces on both the sides. If you use Spark SQL based functions, you can even remove other types of characters than spaces. Let's start the Spark context. Once the Spark context is started, using that, let's create a data frame. This will take care of creating the data frame for us. Once the data frame is created, we should be able to preview the data. This data frame contains only one record. It is nothing but this string. We have spaces around hello dot, and we will see how to remove these spaces using appropriate trim functions. Now let's import all these four functions: call, ltrim, rtrim, trim. The reason why we are importing call is all these trim functions will take column type as arguments. We cannot pass column names as strings. We have to pass them as column type. For that reason, we are even importing call. Now, using this data frame which have one column, I'm adding three columns. The column names are nothing but ltrim, rtrim, and trim. I'm using appropriate functions here. So when I say ltrim of call of dummy, it will remove the spaces on the left side. With rtrim, it will remove spaces on the right side. With the trim, it will remove spaces on both the sides. Let's run this and we can see the output here. The original dummy is this one. Ltrim, you can see that spaces on the left side are gone. Rtrim, you can see that spaces on the right side are gone. With respect to trim, spaces on both the sides are gone. Now let's import expr. I'm going to use expr to actually use SQL style trim functions. You can get the help by using this piece of code. Here I'm trying to get the help on rtrim. If you want to get help on ltrim or trim, you can use similar approach and you should be able to see the help. Let's get the help here with respect to rtrim function. You can see the details. Rtrim takes either one argument or two arguments. To just pass column name and remove spaces on the right side, you can use this approach. If you want to trim some other character on the right side, then you have to pass that string as first argument and the actual column name or actual string as second argument. You can use either of them depending upon your requirement. In this case, as we are trying to remove the spaces, we can just use this function. We can also pass space as first argument if you want it to be explicit. Same is the case with ltrim or trim. Here you can see the example where I am removing spaces using ltrim. As we have dot on the right side, I wanted to remove a dot as well. So first I'm using rtrim to remove spaces on the right side, and then again using rtrim, passing dot as first argument and rtrim of dummy as second argument. It will take care of removing spaces as well as dot from the column. Using trim, you should be able to remove spaces and you can just pass column name like this. This is the traditional data frame based trim function. This is not SQL style trim because I'm not using expr here. Let's run this and you can see the output here. With respect to this function call, we should be able to remove spaces as well as dot from the string. You can see dot is also gone in this case. Now let's see the help with respect to trim function. This is how the trim function look like. Either you can say trim of str like this, or use trim with leading or trailing to simulate ltrim rtrim behavior using trim itself. You can use both to trim characters on both the sides. If you want to use trim to trim characters either on the left side or right side or both the sides, you should be able to use syntax like this. You have to say both, then trim string from str if you want to trim on both the sides. If you want to trim on left side, you can say leading whatever trim string you want to trim from the main string. If you want to trim on the right side, you can say trailing whatever string you want to trim on the right side, then you can say from and then the actual string. This is how the example look like. It will take care of trimming spaces on the left side, on the right side, as well as on both the sides. As we are using rtrim and then trim here, even dot will be gone with respect to rtrim. You can see dot is also gone. This is how you should be able to use trim functions to trim unwanted characters around your column values.